All right. Welcome to BS with Joe. So we're going to talk a little bit today. What do we want to talk about?
Do you want to talk about Fetterman first?
Yes, let's go with Fetterman first.
Okay. So Senator John Fetterman, he's the one that had 2 strokes.
Yes, I believe he had 1 stroke while he was running,
Yeah.
and then I think before he was sworn in, I think he had another one.
Okay.
I'm not 100% sure on that, but I know he had at least one, and it affected him, and he's got disabilities due to that.
Right, but he's still functioning.
He's still functioning.
Right. So I guess I don't know exactly when it was, but I guess after the strokes, he went into a medical facility for treatment of depression,
Right.
and his staff have started to turn on him, and the Democratic Party has really started to turn on him because he's more of a moderate. And honestly, I think it's kind of a situation where it's like the Democrats are showing that they're eating their own.
Right, and I think with Fetterman, what it was he was probably very staunch Democrat until he started getting into office and he started learning how government functions and what the government's actually doing. And I think that's where he's coming off more moderate, because he's not going to just do what the Democratic Party is telling him to do,
Right.
and what to vote for and what to run for. He's
Well,
actually looking out for the people, which is what we're
And some of the things that the Democrat leaders are upset with him about is he accepted an invitation to Mar-a-Lago,
Mm-hmm.
which, oh my God, you said hi to the Orange Man.
Right.
And
Not Orange Man bad.
yes, and the other one was he supported Pete Hegseth,
Mm-hmm.
which the Democrats don't like Pete Hegseth at all.
No, they don't, because he's anti-DEI. He's doesn't want LGBTQ trans that are transitioning into the military, which I agree with, because they're no longer a fighting force. They're no longer effectively, because once you have a surgery like that,
Well,
you're no longer
opinion,
capable.
in my opinion, if you are going to have a problem with people using the correct pronouns for you, you don't have the mental capacity to serve in the U.S. military.
Right, and that one judge that said anyone can go into the military, and all is all. So all individuals should be allowed to go into the military. Well, then I want to know how a quadriplegic is going to be able to serve for the military,
I don't know.
or someone who's deaf and blind. You know,
I agree.
if they have a specific skill that the military could use, then yeah, I'm all for it. But if it's, that individual has to be exceptional at something in order for the military to have any kind of good use out of them. Because the military, there's a reason why the military is considered a meat grinder.
Well, yeah. I mean, the whole point of basic training is to weed people out that aren't going to make it.
Right. And then, and now they're saying, well, we'll accept everybody because we'll find a position for them to do in the military.
No. That's somebody that's never been in the military.
Right. Well, and that goes to something that I've heard Tim Pool talk about, and I want to discuss it with you, is women in the women in general that are holding office,
Right.
knowing that they'll never be that they've never known what it's like to be possibly facing the draft,
Right.
or anything like that. So their decisions doesn't affect their gender as far as possible war. Whereas a male gender that's in office, they're thinking about, I could be drafted, or I almost got drafted,
Right.
or I could have been drafted. So if we enact this draft, I have a feeling over what it
I
is
remember
like.
back in the 1980s when they were talking about allowing women into the military,
Mm-hmm.
which they did, and I'm okay with it.
I'm okay with it too.
But there was discussion about whether the women could be subject to the draft
Mm-hmm.
or not. They didn't even have to register.
No. And to be honest with you, I honestly think they should be drafted. They should be registered to be allowed to be drafted if there is a draft.
I agree.
And it's not so much that they're going to be on the front lines, but with military, you need somebody for the supporting staff.
Right.
And
they can definitely work support.
oh yeah, and
But they don't
logistics and
They
everything
don't
else.
belong
like
in
that.
combat units.
Not combat unit, not the infantry, not any of that,
Right.
because they want the best of the best for those type of roles.
Yeah,
And technically, they don't even need super smart soldiers. They just need brave, strong individuals.
right. So with Fetterman, he's got multiple aides that have quit, that are now going to the media with their story. I think they're just looking for a payday. And the Democratic Party is claiming that he's incompetent and unfit for office.
Right.
So he's getting attacked left and right. And of course, the RNC, Republican National Committee, is saying, "Come on over, we'll take care of you."
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and that goes back to like one of the things I wanted to talk about in another episode. I guess we could combine that in this episode. Is a little bit about rhinos. Like
Okay.
the Republican Party has changed.
It has.
It's no longer the same with the Democratic Party. They are gone so far left, and because the Republican Party has accepted so many more moderate, that the moderates are now more in the Republican Party than they ever have been.
I agree. Well, I mean, the Republican Party had a problem there for a good 20 years where they were just too far right.
Right. But at the same time, the problem I've always had with the Republican Party, because I've been with the Republican Party for a while. I grew up with him. My dad was a Reagan supporter, and ever since then, my father's kind of pushed me towards the Republican Party because of that, and I've kind of accepted a lot of that. But the problem that I've had ever since Reagan and actually Bush Jr. and so on, they've always been war hawks. They've always
Because there's money in war.
there's money in war, and they've always looked out for the big corporations
They
and
have
not so
been-
much the people.
They have been more controlled by the oligarchy.
Oligarchy, yeah.
Yeah, but then again, so has the Democratic Party.
Well, that's where I'm kind of coming to this conclusion. The oligarchs are no longer Republicans or Republican Party because they no longer have the power.
Right.
And the oligarchs always go where the power is.
Mm-hmm.
And ever since Bill Clinton got into office, the Democratic Party has been gaining all this power. And then the peak of their power was Biden.
I'd say the peak of their power was Obama.
It was Obama, but yet...
Biden was the decline of their power.
Right, the decline of their power, but yet, because of everything that was put in place when Biden took office, there was so much power that party has, and still has to this day. Look at everything they're trying to block with Trump, the Orange Man.
Yeah.
And even the media is against the Orange Man. And that's
Well,
why
that's because the liberal media is owned by the left.
You're right. And the oligarchs own the media.
Right. And they have since Hearst.
Right. And they're using it. And the reason why they're using it is because they're realizing that they're losing power to the populace, which is you and I. And populism, I think, is the best way to go because that's where an untapped power is with the voting bloc.
Yeah, but I agree with you because I think that the Republicans on the Hill that are the old guard, like Mitch McConnell and that,
Yeah.
they're on their way out so fast. I mean, I think he's getting attacked just as much as AOC
Oh, yeah.
and Pelosi and Adam Schiff's going to jail.
I hope he does. But yeah, and then you also got Republicans that are true Republican conservatives that look out for the people,
Right.
like Ron Paul,
Yeah.
and Thomas Massey,
Yeah.
Chip Roy for most cases.
I used to like Ron Paul. He kind of got a little out there for me.
He's a little out there, but I see where he's coming from while being out there. Same with Thomas Massey. And Thomas Massey had his wife die on.
Ron Paul was almost libertarian.
Yeah. Well, his father was on the bridge of that.
Yeah.
But the thing is he's libertarian to the point of for our country, but not so much libertarian as in, the way the Libertarian Party is today. The Libertarian Party today, I don't recognize.
Right.
And I consider myself back 10 years ago more libertarian than anything else.
I agree, but then again, the libertarians went a little bit too far, in my opinion. Because I believe in a smaller government. I believe in legalizing some drugs, not all.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely think that abortion should be safe, legal, and rare.
Mm-hmm.
And those are all libertarian ideals.
Right, but and the far left of the libertarians is open borders.
Yeah, that's too far.
That's too far, because the problem with having open borders, and this is my opinion on the open borders, is if you have an open borders, who's to say, okay, this country round up all your whatever, and this is what's been happening, and no one's ever talking about it, is El Salvador and Venezuela, they dumped out all their prisons of the worst and sent them over to the U.S.
They did.
What do you think Haiti did? Probably the same thing. All these other countries are probably doing the same thing.
Well, I don't know about Haiti. I mean, maybe in the last 10 years, but when a lot of the Haitians from this part of the country came here, it was because of that major hurricane.
Right.
And the Disney Corporation actually moved a lot of them here.
Right. But,
They actually came over on the Disney Cruise Line.
Right. We'll save that for another episode, because I think I know where you're going with that.
Yeah.
But that's where the parties are right now.
Yeah.
And I don't know who is a good leader for the Democratic Party except for AOC.
AOC's scary.
She is, but the problem is I don't think she'd ever win if she ran.
She can't. There's no way. Bernie's too old.
Bernie's too old.
AOC is a nut job.
Well, not only that, but
Nancy Pelosi is a walking zombie.
yeah, she won't make it.
No.
Yeah, there's a couple. There's what's his name that was dating a Chinese spy?
I know who you're thinking of. I can't think of his name, though. I'm sorry.
Gavin Newsom as well.
Gavin's another one that's out there.
Right. Okay, you shut down 2 of your gas refineries that produce gas for your state and also other states near your state.
Right.
And you have them close down their gas plants because gas plants bad. And now you're
Because
looking
they're
at...
trying to transfer everybody over to electric, which they don't have this grid to support it.
No, they have blackouts all the time and brownouts all the time.
Right.
So what California's going to do...
That's just because the air conditioner's running, let alone the cars.
Right. What California's doing is they're cutting off their nose to spite their face because they're trying to make everybody happy that's on that part of the world.
Yeah.
And the problem that they're going to have is they're going to have exceptionally high gas prices, and it's affecting all the states around them.
Right. Well,
on the
in
western
in
border.
this past election, California was quite red.
It was.
They still ended up being a blue state, but it was a lot closer than it's been in a long time.
And that it's always the big cities that are always going blue,
Well, yeah.
and the larger populations.
Yeah. But even Sacramento went red.
Right. Right. There's a big red wave that's happening.
Yeah.
But
Because I think a lot of the Californians are just tired of it.
right. But they keep electing Gavin Newsom.
Yeah.
And so
Who is a tax and spend.
right. He shuts down these gas plants to refine gas to gasoline. And so gas prices are going even higher in the place where it's the highest costing country or state in the country.
Mm-hmm.
And so people are going to switch to electric vehicles, which they don't have the charging stations for, and so people aren't going to be able to get around unless they're using public transportation. Oh yeah, what happened to that high-speed rail they was supposed to build that he spent billions of dollars on?
They've spent $6 billion on it. They haven't laid a single grab.
Right, and I mean, how are people going to get around and support themselves and do anything in that state? There's so much subsidization in that state that's ridiculous, and it's all for agriculture. And who's working in the agriculture department? It's all the illegals, and this is where the far left is trying to create a caste system or a class system or however you want to see it, as people that are going to work for these companies and do whatever they need them to do under the table or cheap or whatever labor they can get away with.
Mm-hmm.
And then everybody else that's going to be benefiting from that.
Well, it was the left that designed the school system that we have today, where people are taught just to toe the line and work a job. They don't teach people how to make a living. They teach people how to work a job.
Right. Well, and they don't even teach people how to balance checkbooks anymore, how to do your debt, how to do anything.
How to do taxes.
Household, home economics.
Yeah, a lot of those the programs are canceled.
Yeah. But well, I know we went way off Fetterman, but we talked about the different parties and what we see is going on.
Yeah.
And California is just ridiculous. And these are the people that are going to be leading that party.
Right.
I don't see a promising candidate that could even...
I think that the Democrats are lost for like the next 20 years.
Right, because anybody, and this is the thing with the new media versus CNN, NBC, and ABC, where they're given snowball questions and they're giving them these like questions where they've all pre-scripted the answers to where that's what the people want to hear, and they're not asking the tough questions that people really want answered.
Right.
Is like, okay, you take away our gas. How are we going to be able to afford gas? What are you going to do for that? Are you going to tariff gas somehow?
They're not asking those questions.
Oh yeah, they don't like tariffs.
Right.
All right, so I think that's it for this episode. You got anything else, Joe?
No, I think that's pretty much covered it.
All right, on to the next.
Yep. Please like, subscribe. Well, if you liked it, that is.
And share.
Yeah.
Leave a comment.
And share.